I have never seen a Halloween costume before, but we're going to change that today, and I'm sharing with you my full Barbie costume tutorial. So we are going for a gathered skirt with ruffles at the bottom, a tight fitting top and ruffled sleeves. I always wanted to try them ever since seeing the milkmaid trend, but I never did. So it's about time. We will definitely need pink fabric for the dress. I don't have pink fabric right now, which means I need to go fabric shopping. If you need to do that too, I would recommend going for a non-elastic cotton. You will probably need 2 to 3 meters. Better get a bit more just to be sure, because if we mess something up, we still have backup. Alternatively, you can also use some old bed sheets. For the pattern, we need a basic bodice block. You can either get that on Etsy, craft your own. There are millions of tutorials out here on YouTube, which is why I'm not making an extra video on it. Or you simply copy a tight-sitting top or dress and use that as your basic block. We are going to reduce the shoulder width to 3 centimeters in the front and back. The neckline is 14 centimeters deeper, and we're adding a sweetheart neckline. We're doing the same in the back, 14 centimeters deeper, and we're simply adding a curve. Then the sleeves we are reducing to 4 centimeters, and we're going to cut them open to insert 2 centimeters in between for the ruffles. For our skirt, we need a panel of 150 times 55 and 2 ruffle elements that are 10 by 150 centimeters. If you have questions about the pattern making, simply ask me in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer. Pin the pattern pieces to your fabric and then mark them with some chalk. Make sure to draw in the top part of the dress twice. Then add 1 centimeter seam allowance. When adding interfacing, make sure to press the fabric and hold it, and then move the iron again.
Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight.
We're now pinning everything together, so the sides with the interfacing as well as the ones without interfacing, we are putting right side on the right side and start pinning there, and then we are going to sew these together. We now see, after turning it around, that the lining is quite bulky and isn't laying flat. If that happens, you turn it around again. And we start cutting away, I would say 1/2 centimeter, and then turning it around again. And here, especially at the neckline, we need to cut it in so it's falling nice and flat, especially here at the curve. We need to cut it in a bit, and then the bulk problem will be gone. I'm going to make a cut at the front, center front of the neckline to give it a bit more space. Leave 1 to 2 millimeters to the seam allowance. Also here at the curve, going to make a cut so it can move a bit better. And then we're going to trim it back. We're trimming it back to round about 1/2 centimeter so that you have only a tiny bit left. I quickly put everything onto my dress form, and here you can see it isn't bulky anymore. It's laying nice and flat, but still you can see a bit of the lining poking through. We can either solve that by ironing or by doing some understitching. I'm going to show you how understitching works in the side. Here, the side with the interfacing will go to the outside, and that's our lining part with no interfacing. This little seam allowance, we are going to sew it onto the lining. Basically, we're sewing 2 millimeters along here and going to fixate this seam allowance to the lining. And we won't be able to see it from the outside. And here we can see that we have a nice crisp edge. First step we are going to do before ruffling is to serge the edges, or to zigzag stitch the edges, so that we make sure the fabric isn't disintegrating, which means it would lose threads at the side here, and then your dress wouldn't look nice. Now we're going to ruffle the sleeves. Simply take a stitch of 4 millimeters, sew along your seam allowance, then turn the needle, sew 1 stitch forward with your wheel and sew back down. Then we are going to take the under thread and are pulling on the under threads to ruffle our sleeve. We are now going to insert some elastic at the bottom of the arms. We are now going to sew the bottom armhole and then inserting an elastic. For that we are going to leave a couple of centimeters open to insert the elastic. And for it to look a bit nicer, I'm going to turn the overlock seam in. Now it's time to insert the elastic. You can either take a security pin or such a plastic puller as I have. Now it's about time to sew the ruffle seam. Here you can see my lazy method. I'm simply turning it in while I'm sewing. It works really well if you have some serger threads there, then you simply turn the serger threads around. Now it's time to ruffle all of this. I know, it's a lot of ruffle. Pin the skirt and the ruffles together and then sew it together. Now we're pinning the skirt to the top, but we're only pinning it to the top layer. And later we turn in the lining part and hide the seam. And then we can top stitch the ruffles. And now it's time to sew in the zipper. If you're a beginner, I would recommend sewing it in by hand first and then sewing it by machine. But if you're a bit more experienced, simply pin it in and sew it. Now we're closing the back seam, and our final step will be sewing the lining in by hand. To be honest, I'm more of a Wednesday Adam type, but I thought it would be fun to dress up as Barbie on Halloween. And that's it. Happy Halloween! If you liked my Barbie video, subscribe to my channel and keep updated on fashion and sewing content. See you in the next video. Bye!